100 years of crashing waves, brutal winter winds, and constant use took its toll on the St. Joseph lighthouses. We had to do something to stop the rages of time, and we did, together. This year, we are going to return these national treasures to what they looked like in 1932. It'll mean closing North Pier for a few months, but when the work is done, how these lights will shine. Of course, this preservation and restoration of our lights couldn't have happened without the knowledge of Michelle Smay and Smay Trombley Architecture, who gave us an accurate analysis of the condition of the inner and outer lights.
I'm really excited to be working on this project. I've worked on several lighthouses around the Great Lakes, and to see that the St. Joseph inner and outer lights are some of the most visible and well-known lights, especially on Lake Michigan. These structures were built in 1907, so we're going on nearly 100 years of age. And with the right actions, we'll be able to have them last at least another 100 years.
The passion of Bob Judd and the Lighthouse Forever Committee inspired people from all around the world to give. The prudent stewardship of the Marion Community Foundation and City of St. Joseph staff safeguards our funds so our lighthouses will be safer and more beautiful. The talent of TGA Recording Company has captured our lighthouses' story. The commitment of the City of St. Joseph, who will maintain our lights when they are restored. Mostly, it is possible because of the generous men and women who gave donations large and small to preserve and restore our lighthouses. Yes, we're close to reaching our $2 million goal, but we're not there yet. Our dream of bringing a replica foghorn to the lights and to letting people go inside the inner lighthouse for an unforgettable experience won't happen without more financial help. Truth is, if everyone gave a donation who has walked the pier, made a memory here, or stood in silent awe as the sun paints the sky behind them, we'd make our goal in no time. Please help us. In October, we'll add your name to the donor wall, where you will shine forever.
So one of the main goals that we're going to be doing is making sure that we get the lights, both of the lights, in a condition that they're stable and prevent as much future deterioration as this type of deterioration that you can see. So significant part of our early funds that we'll spend on the buildings will be getting this steel plate that both lighthouses are constructed of in a good condition and with the right type of paint on them. We're going to be using some industrial grade marine paints that will last typically at least 30 years before you need to reapply those. And then that'll give us a nice coating so that we don't start to see some of this that's happening and paint peeling away where we're seeing the rust coming through from underneath, like here. And what happens is as the steel starts to rust, it grows inside and then it starts to pop off paint and the problem just exacerbates over. So that's where we want to get to key. That's going to be one of the first things that we're going to address at both lighthouses. As many of you might be aware, the outer light actually had some paint work done, extensive work done in 2008. So we're not going to have to do as much there as here at the inner light. You can see the outline of the original large pair of double doors that opened that provided access into the fog signal building. You can see the little angled steel hood that provided a little drip over those doors. And sometime, I'm still working on the date, researching material, those doors were taken out, infilled with steel plate, and this marine kind of type boat type door was installed. So that might be one of the things we'd look at in the future of returning some of the historic appearance back to the lights. Same with the windows. We're fortunate enough that the windows are still in place behind these steel plates to get those restored and back operational. We're now inside of the inner light, the combined inner light and fog signal building. You can see the remnants of the concrete base that the equipment stood on to operate the fog signal. It was steam operated, so we had a large boiler. We had everything, the lighthouse service built everything in duplicate so that there was never a worry that the fog signal would not be working. The damage that you see at the ceiling here, a lot of the plaster and insulation has fallen. The dark markings, we're still looking if that's evidence of a fire or water damage. We're thinking more so water damage at this point, but we're still looking into that. So part of our initial work will be getting this entire space cleaned up so that we can, people can safely come in here. None of the fog signal equipment is left besides some of the bases. We see a large water pipe here that provided, looks like it was a drain for the boiler system. The steel structure was infilled with brick throughout the first floor that you can see, and they even took the care to use 2 different bricks for a little architectural detail. Our steel staircase that provides access to the upper levels of the building is in remarkably good condition. We've got some surface rust, but overall it's structurally sound. Right now, besides some general cleanup and work at the perimeter, such as restoring the windows and cleaning up things, we're pretty good to have the building stabilized from an interior standpoint. Focus on the exterior, get both lighthouses in nice weather-tight condition to prevent as much future rusting as we can, and then hopefully quickly move into interior restoration, especially at this lower level that may be able to provide some access for people to see what it looks like inside the lighthouses rather than just from the pier or from the shore. Well, here we are up at the 2nd floor of the fog signal building. And here you can really see some areas of rust where water has been getting into the structure and rusting away the steel plate. Here at the floor level is rusting and just starting to disintegrate. And there's a few areas, if you look closely, where there's some holes where what we're seeing is actually the steel plate structure. We're seeing the back side of what you see on the exterior. So when we start to get the rust and it rusts through, that's where we get openings where water can get in and further damage the structure. This dormer here, this push out in the structure now there's just a steel plate welded here, but this was a door. This was originally a wood panel door that provided access out to the catwalk for the keepers to come out during bad weather. And we've got all the original details if we are able in the future to rebuild that door and open that back up, what it looked like for 70 plus years. You can see this large hole in the floor. This is where the large smokestack from the boilers, it angled over, and you can see the very large hole where it came out through the roof of that dormer and then extended another 25 or 30 feet at least, we've seen in historic photos. But what we'll want to do is we'll do some steel plate repair to tighten up any of those seams where we've got water coming in and damaging the steel. But overall, this paint that you see throughout is protecting the interior space quite well, especially considering the age of the building. We've had an environmental services company come out and test all of the paint on both structures and the catwalk and other materials to see what type of hazardous materials we're dealing with that we want to make sure that we remediate and take care of. We will be undertaking all practices necessary for proper treatment of lead-based paints, environmentally safe practices, and also we were happy to find out that there was not much asbestos content in either of the structures. The large ceiling insulation, all of the mess that you saw downstairs on the floor does not contain any asbestos or other hazardous materials. There's just a little bit in the window glazing, which is common for the period. So now we've went up another level. Interesting thing about the United States Lighthouse Service is they, being a government agency, had a lot of standard details that they used, such as this ship's ladder, this curved ladder that's here. I've seen these in some other lighthouses, and also some of the just typical industrial railings and hatches that are built. Porthole windows are very typical. Part of our initial work when we get out here with phase 1 to tighten up the exterior, we'll be restoring all of the windows. You see this one's been cracked, replacing the glass, getting them all operational. Another thing for helping with rust is that a lot of the rust on the inside is from condensation rather than water getting in. So it's good once we have operable windows, we can open them up on a regular basis, get some airflow, some natural ventilation to help air out the structures, keep them a little drier, as long as we keep those windows shut when we have some severe storms. Here you'll see most of the damage on this level is really just damage of the plaster. On the west side here, you see a lot of interesting openings. This is where the different stages, the different types, there's been different types of fog signal equipment through the years. Downstairs, I mentioned the original system was a whistle that was mounted to the roof below. Then we moved to what's called an air diaphone system. And these openings are where the large horns protruded out the west side of the building. And then this was also part of one of the later fog signal equipments that came here and has been since capped off. Now we're up in the tower of the inner light. Interestingly, we were just talking about how this small spaceship-looking light is not what you would think of for a lighthouse. It's our contemporary type of lighting system. Projects a lot of light. The original Fresnel lens is being restored by the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center right now. That this new light's just been in place for less than 2 years. Some of the conditions you see up here, a lot of peeling paint. This system of mullions that supports the glazing, this helical type shape mullions is a really nice feature of the St. Joe lights. And it's a combination of both cast iron and bronze elements. You see in the top of the structure is a hood hanging down. Above that is a ventilation ball that would let the gases out and the exhaust when the lamps used oil for the light before electricity, and the vented hood helped to reflect down the light and help with the escaping of the gases. The whole lantern construction is very typical of United States lighthouses, with the exception of the helical bars here, which is a little more unique to St. Joe. We have a sister lighthouse that is extremely similar here close by in Michigan City, Indiana, that has most of the structure. It's a combined fog signal and tower like here. That's the closest that I've seen in design to this structure. We have these vent hoods that also helped ventilate the tower when we had kerosene and mineral oil used as fuels for the lantern. Now what we like to see is we get these vents operating again, as I talked about earlier, just letting some natural ventilation in and out of the tower to prevent rust, keep things dry as much as possible. You'll see the inner lighthouse is white with a red roof, a black lantern, and the outer light's white with black. The Lighthouse Service had standard colors that they mandated for painting of lighthouses around the country. Some of those things were based on whether it was located on the shore, if it was located on a pier, such as here in St. Joe, and having different colors so that the lighthouses could also act as day marks for mariners during the day, being able to understand both the design, different types of lights that they see, and different colors to understand where they were at along the shore. They also had standards for interior paint. Lanterns were always painted white from the interior. Floors would be either gray or black. And then a lot of the metal pieces, like you've seen as we've been going up through the tower, were painted as they called lead red. Very good and long lasting for steel and other iron components, not so good for the environment. And because of the size of this light, we have a nice, almost full-size door out onto the gallery. Now we're at the uppermost part of the lighthouse of the inner light. We're on the exterior lantern gallery that provided keepers access to be able to look out if they needed to see during the day to help people in need. As I mentioned, this framing of the light of the lantern, the glass, is a combination of cast iron and bronze. The Lighthouse Service used a lot of brass and bronze components for their longevity. All of these mullions on the exterior are bronze. You can see where the paint loss is. It's starting to patina to a green color like bronze does. There's also bronze hardware on the door. And well, you can see that the floor here needs to be repainted. We're starting to get some rust, surface rust at the railings too. So we're looking down at the small little vent, the kind of hood that you see coming off of the roof here, the fog signal building. That was the coal chute where coal could be delivered off the lighthouse tenders into. Right below that was a storage room on that second level for coal to be fed into the boiler that operated the fog signal. And there was a walkway around the perimeter. You see there's still some wood planking left on it. Walkway around for the keepers to be able to get out there for maintenance. And also it was a continuation of the catwalk that's both east and west of the light tower and continues out to the outer tower. Originally the catwalks were all wood, and in the early 20th century were replaced with steel. This outer portion of the catwalk that goes from the inner light to the outer light was damaged significantly beyond repair in the 1920s and rebuilt with what you see there now. It still has the concrete planking on it at that elevated walk, but it's unsafe. You can see none of the railings are in place. I think it's critical for us to get this first phase of stabilization underway as soon as possible so that we're just in the early stages of some of the rust and deterioration to prevent that. Once it starts, it can start to exacerbate pretty quickly.